My name is Julia Foster, and at 30 years old, the cafe smelled like roasted coffee beans and faint vanilla from the pastries behind the counter. I sat across from Evan, stirring my latte more to occupy my hands than out of habit. The rain outside blurred the city lights, turning the street into a shimmering watercolor, softening the edges of reality I wasn't sure I wanted to face. 2 years. 2 years of shared mornings, inside jokes, and weekend hikes. And now this quiet, almost polite ending. I watched Evan trace the rim of his cup with his finger, a faint tension in his jaw, like he was holding back a sigh or something heavier. I think we've grown in different directions, I said softly, rehearsing this line for weeks. And that's okay. I want you to be happy, Evan. Truly. He nodded, eyes scanning mine, searching for a reaction I wasn't going to give. Yeah, I get that, he said. He stopped, took a breath. I guess I thought we'd be different people by now, but still, it's hard. I smiled faintly, a sad curve of lips. Hard doesn't mean impossible. Hard just means the chapter is closing. We shook hands, firm and careful, as though sealing an unspoken agreement. No dramatics, no lingering doubts. I left the cafe feeling a strange mixture of relief and melancholy. The sky had cleared outside. The rain had stopped. My life felt quiet again, predictable, safe. That evening, I deleted his number, unfollowed him on social media, focused on the small things, my commute, my apartment, my work emails, peaceful. So peaceful that I allowed myself to believe it was final. But sometimes, when I sipped my coffee alone in the kitchen or walked past the quiet streets toward home, I caught a fleeting image in my mind, a shadow hesitating at the cafe door before leaving, the tiniest flicker of hesitation, like someone refusing to truly let go. I shook my head, trying to dismiss it. Closure is real. It's supposed to be real. The next days unfolded in a reassuring rhythm. I returned to my desk at the office, greeted my colleagues, and organized reports for the week. Everything normal. Even the small annoyances, printer jams, overflowing inboxes, felt manageable. Life had regained its cadence. Yet, beneath the surface, there was a subtle tension I couldn't quite name. A quiet awareness that endings, even peaceful ones, can have echoes. Sometimes shadows linger long after the sun has set. And for reasons I couldn't yet understand, I had a nagging sense that the finality I believed in was fragile, that the calm I clung to could shatter without warning. But for now, I told myself it was over. Truly, I was free. And that thought, fragile as it was, allowed me to breathe. I thought I was free. It started small. A single text, innocuous on the surface, like a shadow brushing against the corner of my mind. Hey, stranger, thinking about us today. Remember that Thai place we loved? I stared at my phone, thumb hovering over the screen. My chest tightened. I typed carefully, deliberately. I think it's best we don't stay in touch right now. The reply came almost immediately. Just one coffee, I promise, no pressure. I didn't respond. A day later, there was a call. Morning. Then another in the afternoon. Late at night, voicemails, softly spoken, nostalgic, too personal. He remembered our inside jokes, our shared quirks, our quiet Sunday mornings. I had thought I had left those memories behind, safely tucked away. Now they felt like knives, slicing through the calm I had fought to reclaim. The first time he showed up at my office, I thought it must be a mistake. I work in accounting, a professional environment where the loudest thing usually is the hum of a copier. Yet, there he was, standing in the reception area, drenched from an unexpected drizzle outside, hands in his pockets like he belonged there. My apologies, I said sharply, masking the sudden spike of fear in my stomach. I'm working. You can't be here. I just wanted to talk, he said, eyes earnest, almost pleading. Just a moment, that's all. I shook my head. We aren't talking anymore, not here, not ever. He left that day, but only for a while. 2 days later, he returned. The same lobby, the same, I just need 5 minutes energy. Security had to intervene, gently escorting him out. I felt a cold knot in my stomach as I watched him leave. Not defiant, not angry, just waiting. And that's when I noticed the car parked across the street. He sat inside, headlights off, silent, watching, waiting. Fear doesn't always arrive as a scream. Sometimes it's quieter. A nagging awareness that someone is there when they shouldn't be. that someone is watching, timing their moves, anticipating yours. I told myself it would stop. Maybe he'd get bored. Maybe he'd realize I was resolute. But every instinct in my body, honed over weeks of careful observation, told me this was only the beginning. The texts became relentless. I just want to hear your voice. Don't you miss us? Why won't you talk to me? Every unanswered call felt like a provocation. Every missed message, a challenge he wouldn't let go of. My phone buzzed constantly, a low-grade anxiety that threaded itself into my day, my work, my sleep. And yet, I forced myself to remain calm. Documenting became my armor. Screenshots of messages, a detailed log of calls, dates and times, even photographing the car across the street without him noticing. I whispered to myself in these moments, I will not let him control me. Not again. By the end of the week, I realized the quiet freedom I thought I had was slipping through my fingers. A creeping, insidious sense of being hunted had replaced it. And as I glanced out the office window, at a shadowy figure sitting behind tinted glass, I understood something I hadn't allowed myself to admit. This wasn't just longing or heartbreak. This was obsession. I had to act. But how? For now, I documented. I observed. I prepared. And I steeled myself for the confrontation I knew was coming. Because shadows, once they decide to linger, rarely leave quietly. I started noticing patterns. Times when his texts arrived, the exact hour his calls pinged my phone, the small, deliberate pauses between each message, as if he were testing me, measuring my patience. Fear had a rhythm, and he was dancing to it. It was in the quiet moments that the dread hit hardest. Leaving work, I found his car parked a few blocks away, sometimes closer, sometimes farther, but always there, like a silent, lurking shadow. My pulse would spike, my hands would shake slightly as I gripped my keys. Each step toward home felt heavier than the last. I knew I couldn't rely on hope alone. I began documenting everything meticulously. Screenshots of messages, timestamps of calls, every voicemail saved. I even took photographs of his car from a safe distance, careful not to be seen. At the office, I discreetly asked coworkers if they had noticed him. They had. One colleague whispered, "Julia, that's more than weird. That's stalking." I didn't want to admit it to myself, not fully. I wanted to believe it was just his way of coping, a misguided attempt at reconciliation. But the day he cornered me in the parking garage, that illusion shattered. "We need to talk," he said, his voice low, urgent. I froze. The night was quiet, the dim glow of the street lamps casting long shadows on the asphalt. My car was parked, engine off, but I felt trapped. "No, we don't," I said firmly, stepping back. My voice was steady, even though my chest felt like it was hammering against my ribs. "You're throwing away everything we had," he insisted, stepping closer. "Don't touch me," I said, pulling my hand back when his fingers brushed mine. "I mean it. Leave me alone." For a moment, he froze. Then, reluctantly, he stepped away. I didn't wait. I drove home with hands trembling on the wheel, heart racing in every possible rhythm. Fear, anger, disbelief. That night, I called the non-emergency police line. Every word I spoke felt heavy, the kind of weight that presses on your chest long after the conversation ends. I described everything, the incessant calls, the texts, his appearances at my office, the physical contact. The officer listened patiently. "You're doing the right thing by documenting everything," he said. "File a report. If the behavior continues, you can pursue a restraining order. Make sure to keep all evidence, dates, times, locations. Take it seriously. You're not overreacting." The next day, I filed the report. Hours were spent collating hundreds of messages, call logs, and photographs. I created a timeline of events that stretched over weeks, each entry a reminder that this wasn't just obsession, it was harassment. My cousin, a lawyer, looked over everything. "You have a solid case," she said firmly, leafing through the evidence. "The repeated appearances at your workplace, the texts after being told to stop, that's legally actionable. You're protecting yourself, and that's the right move." A small surge of relief washed over me, mingled with exhaustion. The reality hit in full force. This wasn't going to resolve itself. I had to be proactive. I had to confront this legally, not emotionally. And yet, fear lingered. Every knock at my door, every car in the parking lot, Every unknown number flashing on my phone kept me on edge. It was a low, constant tension, like the hum of a city at night, always there, barely noticeable until you focus on it. I began to notice subtle things too, patterns that might have seemed insignificant before. Evan knew my schedule. He arrived when he knew I'd be alone. He knew the quiet corners, the places I visited. It wasn't just obsession, it was predation disguised as concern, as nostalgia. I steeled myself for what was next. Filing a restraining order wasn't just paperwork, it was a declaration. I am not yours to chase. I will not be controlled. And as I sat with this folder of evidence spread across my dining table, I realized something crucial. This was a battle of patience, of resolve, of courage. Every documented text, every photograph, every witness account was a brick in the wall I was building around myself, a wall that he could not cross. The shadows outside would remain. The fear wouldn't vanish overnight. But for the first time, I felt the faintest flicker of control. And that flicker, fragile as it was, would have to be enough to guide me through the next steps. Because the next steps would bring the law into play, and he wouldn't know what hit him. The courthouse smelled of polished wood and antiseptic. My stomach twisted as I walked through the doors, clutching the folder of evidence like a shield. 2 years of memories, weeks of harassment, hundreds of texts and calls, all distilled into neat legal documents that now had to speak for me. The clerk handed me a temporary restraining order form. I reviewed it carefully, line by line, feeling a strange mix of anxiety and empowerment. For weeks I had been passive, documenting, watching, waiting. Now, action had a name: protection. Filing the petition felt surreal. I listed the timeline of harassment, the physical contact in the parking garage, the uninvited appearances at my office, the constant phone calls and texts. Every entry was a hammer striking against the illusion that this was just nostalgia or misplaced longing. This was serious. This was real. The judge reviewed the petition and granted a temporary restraining order. The words on the paper seemed to glow with authority. No contact, direct or indirect. No appearing at residence or workplace. Violation will result in arrest. Relief washed over me, tempered with wariness. This wasn't a guarantee of peace, only a legal barrier, a line drawn in the sand. I knew he might test it, push against it, try to find cracks. The serving of the order was its own suspenseful ordeal. Law enforcement attempted to deliver it to Evan's residence. He wasn't home. I hesitated, then mentioned an alternate address, a friend's apartment where he sometimes stayed. The next call from the sheriff's office brought a twinge of dark satisfaction. The friend, blindsided by the legal papers, looked confused and worried. "Wait, you're telling me she's the one filing this?" he asked. I had no idea. "Yes," the officer confirmed. "She's the victim here. He's been harassing her." I exhaled, a little of the tension leaving my shoulders. The temporary order had found its mark. Evan had been legally restrained, his obsession publicly documented, his narrative beginning to unravel. Yet the law could only do so much. Weeks later, I discovered that he had attempted indirect contact, leaving a bouquet of flowers with a note in the lobby, sending messages through mutual friends, even dropping off a framed photo of us. I photographed everything, timestamps included, and forwarded it to my cousin, who advised me to save everything for potential contempt charges. Every attempt to breach the order was a reminder, I thought, that boundaries exist not just to keep peace, but to assert one's autonomy. Meanwhile, the friend who had unwittingly housed him had a wake-up call. He began to see the truth of the situation. Evan's obsession, the lies he had spun, the harassment he had inflicted. Public exposure, even partial, was already unraveling Evan's carefully curated image. For me, the temporary restraining order was both a shield and a statement. I was no longer passive, no longer silent. I had the law, the evidence, and the resolve to protect myself. Every documented violation, every photograph, every text message was a testament to my refusal to be victimized further. The shadows outside, the fear lingering in quiet moments, had not disappeared entirely, but the sense of control, the knowledge that I had acted decisively, strategically, legally, was a new kind of calm, a fragile, hard-won peace. And as I locked my apartment door that night, the flicker of streetlight casting long shadows across the hallway, I realized something vital. The next time Evan tried to cross the line, he would not find a frightened woman. He would find someone prepared, someone who would not back down. The law had spoken, and I had claimed my voice, because the next move was his, and he wouldn't know what hit him. The silence was deafening. For the first time in months, my phone stayed quiet. No texts, no calls, no unexpected visitors at my office or apartment. The weight of constant vigilance slowly lifted from my shoulders, replaced by a fragile, cautious peace. I allowed myself to breathe. The simple rhythm of daily life, the hum of my computer at work, the coffee steaming in the morning, the evening walks in the quiet neighborhood, felt restorative. The world had not changed, but my place in it had. I had reclaimed boundaries that Evan had tried to erase, and for the first time, they felt solid. Therapy became a lifeline. Talking through the fear, the anxiety, the betrayal, it was exhausting, but necessary. I realized that harassment doesn't just invade your space. It burrows into your mind, your confidence, your sense of safety. Slowly, carefully, I rebuilt what he had tried to corrode. Friends became anchors. They hadn't needed convincing that Evan's behavior was dangerous. They had seen the patterns, the obsessive messages, the lurking presence. Their support grounded me, reminding me that I wasn't imagining it, that my fear had a basis in reality. Even Evan's indirect attempts at contact, letters left anonymously, messages sent through mutual friends, were met with documentation, legal counsel, and unflinching boundaries. I no longer reacted with panic. I acted with precision. Each recorded violation, each photograph, each text message was a brick in the wall I had built around myself. The restraining order remained in effect, a legal affirmation of my autonomy. Evan's credibility began to crumble among mutual acquaintances. Lies he had spun about who was obsessed, who had caused the drama, were exposed through documentation and the court's decision. The truth, once hidden, now had weight and authority behind it. And yet, beyond the legal victory, the emotional journey was just as vital. I started reconnecting with parts of my life that had been overshadowed by fear, joining a sports league, making new friends, exploring creative outlets I had neglected. Slowly, carefully, I allowed myself to imagine a life beyond Evan's shadow. A cautious romantic interest emerged months later. I approached it differently, transparent about my past, mindful of boundaries, and unwilling to compromise my hard-earned safety. I realized that intimacy did not require fear, and trust could be built without ignoring past lessons. There were moments of reflection, too. Seeing Evan's image in public spaces, hearing his name mentioned, even encountering him on social media, each time I felt a quiet surge of strength. I had survived. I had acted decisively. I had won back my life without losing my integrity. And in those moments, I understood a crucial truth. Boundaries are not weakness. They are strength. They are the declaration that you will not be controlled, that your autonomy is sacred. Harassment thrives on fear, manipulation, and silence. By refusing to play his game, by documenting, acting legally, and standing firm, I dismantled his power. Life is quieter now, peaceful in the best sense, boring perhaps, but grounding. I can work, laugh, breathe without looking over my shoulder. I can cultivate friendships and relationships built on honesty and mutual respect. The trauma lingers, like a scar reminding me of what I endured, but it no longer defines me. And sometimes, when I glance at my phone and see a blocked number attempting to reach me, I smile. I no longer fear it. It is just another shadow that cannot touch me.